I was trying to just determine a quorum.
I'm on the phone, Al.
Dennis, okay, thank you. Ready? So it appears that we do have a quorum, and I'll call the meeting to order. And first thing is the approval of the October 23rd minutes.
So moved.
So moved and
Second.
seconded. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Okay.
Aye.
Now, a couple of thank yous. Brent Gardner spent a substantial amount of time with Michelle. I don't know if everybody's aware of that, reviewing the insurance package, and we didn't have to get Crane Langer involved, and we saved.
$115,000 over last year.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of change. Good job. I mean, it's something we have to push every rock that we can.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then the other thank you, and we'll be getting to the investment advisors, is I want to thank Steve and Dan for helping us go through that process, and we came to a unanimous conclusion. So I just want to thank the people. We'll talk about it here in just a minute under new business. So again, I appreciate everybody, and I'm sure the city does too, that steps up and that helps Michelle or Eric or the commissioners. Other than Mr. Brady, you blackballed me, and I wasn't allowed to email the commissioners. There's a joke there, and Stuart's got it handled. Evidently, there's a block that when I went to email and congratulate Michelle on the workman's compensation, it bounced everything back and says I did not have permission to email the commissioners.
Yeah, we're pretty stingy with our permission to communicate. You can see that.
So I figured Murray did that.
It was the vice mayor, that's for sure.
So, okay, new business, the investment advisor selection. Again, I thank the people for helping us. Michelle, do you want to take over?
Sure, thank you, Chairman. So the investment advisor selection, again, to everybody on the selection committee for helping out and volunteering some additional time that we all know is very scarce at the moment. But we went through the process, and the selection committee ended up with Meters Investment Company. They're located in Dublin, Ohio, and they have 25 years' experience with public entities, so they're very familiar on investments for public entities. What it boils down to is they have like over $14.6 billion under management for all of their investments. They will be charging us 8 basis points on every dollar that they are going to manage in the future. This is something that will go to commission. It's going to go to the commissioners the first meeting in December. I believe it's December 14th. But we don't expect to spend over $10,000, but we want them to be aware of it because in the future, as we have more funds to invest, it could be over a $10,000 expense. So they'll be charging us.
That's one thing I hope we do.
And it's well worth it, absolutely
Yes.
well worth it. So they're going to be charging us 8 basis points, which boils down to, for every $1 million that they invest, we're paying them $800 annually. So it's a great deal. They do this day in and day out. They're going to find us the best deals, and we'll recoup that in the interest that we'll
I
see.
think Dan and Steve's email to myself and you, Michelle, and I don't know if you were copied on it, Eric, but everybody was well qualified. These two stood out, and it got down to the point of who does Michelle want to work with? And again, Dan probably more experienced than all of us with investment advisors there that he works with at the hospital with a substantial amount of money, and we all came to the same conclusion.
That's good.
So,
Absolutely, thank you.
now, is that a recommendation we should make to the commission, or just you're going to take it up with the commission?
I believe the selection committee has already made the recommendation by going through the scoring process, so I will just prepare that legislation and
Okay.
give it to the commission.
So we concur with the recommendation.
Great, thank you.
Now, the great thing, this budget, this nice email that I sent you to congratulate you that, the commissioners didn't want, and again, it's just funny, that bounced back and said you're not qualified as to send emails to certain commissioners.
Jeez.
So,
All right. So I'll just dive right in.
Yep, dive right in.
So we are looking at our budget for this year, and as everyone should be aware, BWC, with the push of the governor, announced a $5 billion back program. That is a 372% of the premiums we paid to BWC in 2019. Since this is above and beyond what our actual expenditures were, the state auditor gave a bulletin on this and stated that it is permitted to put this next refund all in the general fund. So it's almost $1.5 million that we're going to be seeing. So these checks are going to be issued mid-December, so we hope to have it clear our bank or our books right before year end by the time we get it.
Is that we've had so much bad news, it was nice to get good news.
Absolutely.
Without putting you on the spot, obviously we know the incredible loss that we've had in admission tax, hotel motel, and city income tax. What have we gotten approximately between the workman's compensation, some of the different federal government programs to make that up?
So we got $1.5 billion back coming here in December from BWC. We had a check earlier this month in November for $420,000 back from
Right.
BWC, and earlier this year we had a check, it was like 200 and some thousand from BWC. In addition, we have the CARES Act funding, which was another $1.6 million.
So-
And those funds could be used on safety service forces, so our police and fire wages were we're able to help offset our expenses for police and fire with that $1.6 million in CARES Act funding. We've also got additional dollars from the federal government to help run our transit system, so we've been very fortunate this year.
And we were able to use our reserve fund to help pay that additional payroll.
So payroll stabilization, I had those figures.
Yeah,
I knew
you know
were
I was gonna ask that question,
I knew.
Michelle.
So payroll stabilization, at the beginning of the year, we had over $1 million in there. So again, thank goodness that we did. We've had a lot of people that retired or left employment this year. We are looking at almost $490,000 that will come out of payroll stabilization yet this year. We did also take out the 27th pay out of payroll stabilization this year. So with those figures, at the end of this year, we look to be about $145,000 in payroll stabilization. So we still have a balance, but again, we started with $1 million this year. So we're very grateful to have that available to
I think
use.
Mr. Whoopser indicated that we do have some retirements we may have to pay, but they're not major in January of '21.
So at this point, I know of 6 that are retiring next year. 3 of them will be in January. So I have that factored in. We have in our budget for 2021 that we're going to fund $210,000 back to payroll stabilization next year. It still gives us a balance at the end of the year of about $160,000, $170,000. Again, that's a big estimate. We'll have to see where these payouts actually come, and as people use time and things like that, these numbers will change.
I think that's great, Mr. Whoopser. It's one of those things, once we got it started, thank God we got it started. So, you know, wherever we can beg, borrow, or use the last word, the money, I think just a great idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, we're very thankful. So with the new news of BWC and the revenue we'll be getting in yet this year, we expect the general fund cash balance to be about $4.7 million this year, which is fantastic compared to what we were facing this year. We did cuts early this year. We expected the worst. We were able to get the stimulus dollars and additional funding revenue sources back in, and our revenue doesn't look great. Our revenue year-to-date is $15.6 million right now as we sit, where we budgeted $24.5 million this year in revenue.
So
But
we
again,
did, if it's 15 and we did 24 and we picked up about $3 million, I'm trying to do the math and I'm a CPA without a calculator here, so
well, the 15.6 includes what we've already gotten from BWC.
Okay.
It does not include the new 1.5 million. So
Okay.
if you include that, puts us at just over 17.1 million. And we still have additional revenue coming in yet this year, hoping to be about $18.7 million in revenue this year.
so we'll be down then approximately,
Almost 6 million. But
which
we-
is still hurt, don't get me wrong, that's still.
Absolutely.
But it seems like, Mr. Whoopsie, you've managed it quite well to be able to end the year with that kind of money. And Mr. Brady, one of the questions you asked early in some of these meetings is, how far can we spend that down and still be stable? And it looks like we're not going to have to.
Well, we got to get to 2021. So,
For this year.
yeah, for this year. No,
Yeah.
we're very fortunate going into
Okay,
2021.
I'm talking to the end of the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Okay, I don't disagree with Ms. Whoopser at all with you on that one.
But through the chair, I just say thank you for those kind words. I really give the lion's share of the credit for that to Michelle, who has really hung in there and been very disciplined. And it hasn't always been easy for her internally as we've made difficult decisions. Commission President Brady, all the commissioners have had a lot of push for fiscal discipline this year in this finance committee. So it's been a team effort of our directors, our finance leadership, and the commission and partners. And we would not be in this situation, and we would have had to have made much deeper cuts without the support of the Bureau of Workers' Comp and the federal stimulus. We're very hopeful that there will be continued federal stimulus, although we don't count on any additional. There really is, as we start to talk about 21 numbers, a need for one more round of that. But I am more than pleased as to where we're ending this year, and that's because of a lot of help from outside the city, but a lot of really strong leadership within the city.
But we have that $4 million going into 21 at least as a cushion.
Exactly.
And if anybody says they know what 21 is going to be, they're probably smoking something they shouldn't be. Because I don't think any of us know. I mean, it really depends on what happens with Steve, if you get your crystal ball out, when are you going to open and how many days? I'm kidding, Steve.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the interesting thing is, and Steve, I'm not looking for any comment from you, but the price of Cedar Point stock in the last month has gone from 27 to 36. So that tells you that the street is thinking that it's going to come back. There's people betting big that Cedar Point will be back in operation by next summer.
In some fashion.
In some form or fashion, people with money are really believing that good things are going to happen, or they wouldn't have bounced the price 25%. Just my opinion.
I don't disagree with that at all. But again, it's a crystal ball.
Oh,
We have to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. You
No.
keep interrupting you, and we apologize.
No, it's a great conversation. The only other thing I wanted to touch base on is the 2021 budget.
Okay.
So as we said, we are going to still be very conservative on our revenue. For next year, we're at $17.8 million in revenue. If anything comes in above that, we will be extremely grateful, but we wanted to make sure we were conservative. So $17.8 million is our budgeted revenue next year. As a reminder, this year we budgeted 24.5. So we are keeping our revenue a realistic number, and we're trying to live as best as we can within that number. Our expenditures next year are at $19.8 million. We're going to have a deficit next year. At this point, looking at the budget of $2.1 million that we will be taking away from our general fund. Again, if anything comes in better with revenues, that deficit won't be there. So we're working at it. It's changing daily, but we've done a lot of great things with the budget.
And if we get down to the $2 million mark, thereabouts, I'm having my senior moment. The gentleman that came in that does our bond work,
Mike Cecina.
yeah, Mike, felt comfortable with that $2 million based on what everything was going on. So it looks like the plan is working. Let's just hope that vaccine gets out and the economy cooperates. Yes. Yeah, but this is above and beyond anything we can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing we can control is our expenditures. So that's where we're going to make sure at the end of this year and next year, we'll control our expenditures to the best of our ability.
I expected 6 months ago more bleak news in the November and December meeting. I really didn't know how it would come out.
Absolutely. And I think credit, again, to the management here because, Eric was on board. We made tough decisions early. We were taking cuts in April, and, everyone else around here was looking at us like, why are you doing this? And so those cuts early helped us out.
And through the chair, Dick and I had a brief conversation last night, and we said the exact same thing that you just said, is if you would have told us 6 months ago that this is where we were going to be today, we would have taken it in a minute and looked forward to 2021 and
Yes.
I'm really, and it took a lot of things falling into place for us to be here right now, all of which have been mentioned, but we are in a better position today than most scenarios would have guessed once we realized how serious this was late spring.
not too many cities, businesses, governments, whatever term you wish to use, can take the kind of hit to the top line and still have their head afloat.
Absolutely. And again,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
while we're doing these high fives and this chest bumping, I do want to mention a point that is stuck in my brain for the last 6 months now, and that is a portion of this credit certainly belongs with Commissioner Murray. He, to a point of aggravation, he pushed both staff and myself and everyone to be more conservative than any of us wanted to be early on, and that turned out to be prophetic. So I know that as Commissioner Murray explained to all of us, that those are the kind of things that he does for a living, and I do want to share a large portion of this credit with him for forcing us to be conservative when it would have been very easy for all of us to look the other way for another month or two. That this is a lot like landing a plane. You have to get it down on the runway. All that runway behind you doesn't do you a bit of good. And his strategy on this was turned out to be prophetic. We are where we are because Commissioner Murray continued to belabor the point that time was wasting, and we had to make the cuts that we had the courage to make at the time. So a great deal of thanks goes out to him.
I agree with that
Well, thank you,
100%.
Dan. Thank you for those kind words, and we're not out of the woods yet, so be careful.
Yeah, true.
And I think also the fact that, first of all, I agree with Mr. Brady, but having these monthly meetings, I know has been a burden on a lot of us, and sometimes we can and can't make them, but we've stayed on top of it to be able to support Mr. Murray and, being the, I'm going to call you the pessimist, Dennis, sorry, but we took that approach and it worked.
Well, that's why I get paid to be the pessimist, so.
But again, is there anybody have any other questions on the budget or where we're at now? I think in our December meeting, which is,
December 11th.
pardon?
December 11th.
December 11th. We should then know basically where 2020 is going to be, pretty much so. And like again, 6 months ago, I'd have never believed it. So I don't know if we have to have a motion or anything on the budget at this point in time because we're not presenting it, or do you want a motion that we can recommend it to the commission for their approval? How are we going to do that this year?
I definitely appreciate everyone's input. If we want to wait till the December 11th meeting,
Okay.
make sure there's no other changes to the budget between now and then, we can take that recommendation on December
Right.
11th meeting.
That's fine.
And then it'll be going to commission the last meeting of the year for first reading, and then they'll have a second reading, the first meeting in January.
Does that work for Mr. Brady and Mr. Murray?
That does for me, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Again, I know that everybody's time is very valuable, but this seems to have worked. I'd like to continue with the monthly meetings, at least through 21. If we get through half of 21 and we determine that some of the meetings don't need to be, we can always change that. But at least this way, they're on your calendar, and we can go from there. Mr. Whoops, I think your comment was, that's 20, but what about 21? And, particularly once we start getting into the opening possible time of Cedar Point, it's going to be critical.
Through you, Commission Chairman, I want to mention one other thing is that I know the sheet's little for you guys to read, but where we're at on full-time employees. So at the moment, we're at 223 full-time employees. As a reminder, we started the year with 253 full-time employees. So we're down 30 employees. The last position we're looking to fill this year is the Chief Development Officer. That's Matt Lasko's replacement position, so that one's open, and we're hoping to get that filled. And, next year, we'll look at things as we go. There's nothing coming up, first part of the year is looking to fill too many positions.
You didn't have to do any cuts to the safety services? Again, it's too small for me to read.
Through the chair, right now, through attrition, we're going to be down 2 police officers in this coming budget with the goal of getting that back to full strength in 2022. And fire is fully staffed minus the chief. We have an interim chief who is staying on shift, Jim Green. We're going to try to ride that out for as long as we can in 2021 to keep but outside of that chief position, all of the union positions.
I see Jim is on the line. You were just put on the spot, Jim.
Yeah. We've had this conversation with Jim, Chief Warzek has, I should say, previous to today's meeting. But so there's 3 safety positions that are impacted in next year's total budget. And remember, those are 96 positions. So a lot of our 223 positions are safety, and there are only 3 impacted in next year's budget. There are no layoffs, and 1 is just holding off on the chief position for as long as we can. And then the other 2 are riding out with 2 fewer police officers and filling everything else throughout next year.
Yeah, it wasn't like last time where we had to close fire stations and things. Those were terrible days.
We're trying desperately to avoid that. So.
Yes. Again, Michelle, for somebody that stepped into this, I'll leave you what I just was about to say, stepped into this mess, okay? And to handle it the way you did, I'm impressed. And again, I think I said it last time, the way that you and Mr. Whoops work together, I think is key. And that helps.
Through the chair, the only other thing I would say is really keeping an eye on maintaining our momentum in addition to balancing the budget. And I think this coming year is going to be another year of really difficult sacrifices, but we're doing all we can. But when I look at those staffing levels in October of this year of 223 versus the 253 we had in January, it's starting to look a lot closer to pre-issue 8 levels of staffing. And in addition to the staffing levels, the larger capital transfers that we've made to support infrastructure development like streets as well as housing and economic development are way down as well. And my focus hopefully is, as we learn more in 2021, is by the 22 budget is to get back into the business of that post-issue 8 world that we were in, which I think was a huge part of the momentum we've created, not only locally but regionally. And it won't be easy, because we're going to have to make sure that we're replenishing the reserve, but we also have to maintain service levels and continue a trajectory of investment to grow our tax base.
That's the fine balancing act that you need to do, but we saw what that reserve did for us this time.
Exactly.
And I went through 08, I went through this. I'm not sure I can handle one more.
It was terrible.
Yes.
08, Mr. Murray and I, we're going to flip a coin to say the last person out of the city, turn the lights off. Okay, again.
Well, I'll not turn the lights off on this great city, so that's not going to happen.
That was never an option.
I know, I remember.
I was referring about City Hall, but that's okay. Anything else, Michelle?
I have nothing else.
Anything else, Mr. Whoops?
Those donuts are phenomenal.
Anything else?
You switched it up.
Mr. Stahl, I'm going to give you your 30 seconds. You'll probably take it anyways. Anything else?
Happy Thanksgiving. Shock you. I want to bug Mr. Whoopser about something.
Oh, boy. I'm going to put my mask on.
Mr. Whoops, if you'd like to leave early, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excused.
First of all, is there anything else that, the questions from anybody that's on the, either the phone or the Skype or whatever we use?
Go to meetings. But you and I attend.
Yeah. If there's nothing else, the 2020 meeting dates are on the bottom of the,
Those are 2020, so that's just what we have left for this year. So we'll have to come up with a schedule that works for everyone in 2021.
yes.
So I'll put together some dates and send them to you first, and then once you approve, I'll get them emailed to everybody to get those
Okay.
reserved on everyone's calendar.
Yeah. So, but again, I think we continue with the monthly unless I heard an objection.
I think it's worked out well. It's kept everything in perspective.
If there's nothing else, it's very nice out there. Mr. Waddington said he's leaving because he's going to go play golf, so he shot out the door. So having said that, everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. Thanks to all of you.